Mike Pankow here from Windy City Slam, here from the Windy City Slam home offices. And right now here, professional wrestling manager P.L. Myers.
Wow, I can't do even a better introduction than that myself. Thank you very much for letting me come down to your home, the home offices here, and sit down and talk shop.
Great to have you here today, PL. And you have a big event coming up in early November the 9th, correct?
Yes, November 9th. The place to be is Addison, Illinois, at the Addison Park District. All I can say is that show, WrestleRage, is the place to be. I'm going to be managing the Midwest champion, Matt Dewar, the future himself, along with myself and Cognito Jones. We're going to be taking on some guy named Meat Hooks O'Bannon. I don't know. He's a very strong, powerful family man. A lot of Irish heritage, a lot of Irish drinking, but I digress. And then we're also, that night, we're going to have a tag match where Dave Rydell, along with the doctor, Jeff Luxon, is going to take on Joey Chichi, or I call him Cece. Joey Chichi, the pit bull, and his nephew, who's an amateur wrestler that wants to step in the ring against two professionals. I mean, Luxon and Rydell, as you know, have been around the circuit for a long time. They're not going to let anyone just step into our ring. That's disgraceful. And on top of it, you're going to see two body bags with their names on it laid out. So at the end of the night, they're going to be carted out.
So big night, POWW Entertainment WrestleRage 17, Addison Park District. Mm-hmm. So anything else to tell us about POWW Entertainment and how long you've worked with Jimmy Blaze?
All I know is that tickets are $15 in advance. I mean, you got two great matches for $7.50 each, and then you got the rest of the card. But the great thing about POWW is I've been working with Jimmy Blaze, the owner of POWW, for the last year, and I've had the opportunity to manage Matt Dewar and see his bright future, where he's going to go. I mean, the sky's the limit. The guy has a body chiseled like Adonis. He's got the heart of a lion. And then on top of it, I got Cognito Jones, who has the mind of a smart individual who's been around wrestling for I don't know how many years. And he's there with me to not only to announce us, but also to be there almost like an insurance policy.
Mm-hmm. We just talked a little bit before we went on camera here about your long tenure in professional wrestling. 2.5 decades, about 25 years, something about right?
I wish it was almost 25 years. I've been doing interviews with wrestling since 1996. I did a show called Hero TV, which is still on, which transitioned into Wrestling Resource, which I started doing all the wrestling interviews. I've interviewed probably over 150 wrestlers in the last 20 years. And then I've transitioned to doing managing. I started April 29th, 2000 with PWI, which was run by Sonny Rogers at Harper College. And on that show, it was Wally Wild versus Tito Santana.
Wow.
And I was managing Marcus Dornbos III versus Acid and Jay Jensen, two LWF alumni, two LWF Hall of Famers, two Chicago legends, might I add.
Wow. So backpedaling a little bit more, when you were a kid growing up, I mean, what drew you to professional wrestling? What led you to get into it?
I think what happened is that my great-grandmother was a big wrestling fan, watching Gorgeous George on the television. That's what I was told by my dad. So I think it skipped a generation.
Okay.
And when you're a short, little, heavy-set kid, I was, you weren't really doing sports. My dad was older, so we weren't like playing football or baseball. So when I clicked on the television and watched WWF, not WWE, WWF, and you saw Hulk Hogan, this larger-than-life character, and you just fell in love with it. It's like your first teddy bear. You fall in love with it. But then when you're growing up a little bit more and watching World Class and watching NWA, it's kind of like an AWA. You kind of throw away that teddy bear and go, wait, the Road Warriors, Ric Flair, the Horsemen. It becomes bigger than life. And I was just drawn to it. These wrestlers, these athletes were larger than life. And it was just something I just was glued to. And I got the action figures, I read the magazines, I watched Late Night Wrestling Superstar Challenge, and with invent of cable, you get the USA Network, which had TNT, and then
Primetime Wrestling,
and then 605 TBS superstars with NWA, or sometimes they said WCW.
Yeah, World Championship Wrestling.
World Championship Wrestling. You know, you grew up. It was just something that, you know, it's almost like nowadays with the cosplay slash, you know, comic book, the fans. We're all the round peg trying to fit in the square hole.
Yes.
It's like we just didn't fit in, and wrestling was one of those things because back then, you know, wrestling to us was real. These guys, you saw their eyes. These guys were huge, and there was no question of what they did. But then, you know, you start growing up like wrestling's fixed. But as Bobby Heenan would tell me, we never said it was real, but we never said it was fixed. And you made it was believable. So it was just my in where it just, I felt like I belonged there, because then my buddies would go with me to the Rosemont Horizon before it came to the Allstate, and we would get there every month, and they had monthly shows. No
Yes.
pyro, just the music and one spotlight going to the ring, and we'd watch it. And my first wrestling match was for I believe my 14th birthday. My dad and my mom and my brother went to the Rosemont Horizon, and that was the first time. And we went to Zare, a store that's no longer around.
Love that store.
And I had my iron-on Hulk Hogan T-shirt. There in my book, and there's proof I was. Yes, I was short. I was chubby, and I had my Ric Flair and I had my Hulk Hogan shirt on. So it was just something. It's just something like anything, any sport or anything that you follow, whether it's the Bears, the Blackhawks, you know, the Cubs, the Sox, whatever sport or whatever thing that you like to do, you just find that thing makes you happy. That thing you could just immerse yourself in and enjoy, where it didn't matter what it was. And the great thing about wrestling is that, yeah, they lost today, but they could win tomorrow. Like,
Yep.
I became a big fan of the Road Warriors, and, you know, why wouldn't they win the championship? Well, they got snookered by Tully and Arn, so but that's what drew me to it. It was just something magical and special about it, where I felt I fit in, and I wasn't judged. It was like, hey, it didn't matter my age, didn't matter what I looked like. It was, you could be a wrestling fan.
Oh, who were some of your favorites?
Well, my favorites were, you know, growing up, started was Hulk Hogan. You know, I think everyone falls on, when you're 13 years old, he's larger than life. You get that, and then it transitioned right into the Road Warriors. When I saw the Road Warriors from Chicago, they had a different look, and I just fell in love. All my posters was the Road Warriors. I had Roddy Piper, I like Piper, Ultimate Warrior. I had pictures of, you know, Ricky Steamboat, Junkyard Dog. So I think the things that I just really liked in the beginning was the Superfly Snuka, you know, that era where it came out with the cartoons and the LJN figures and
Yes.
stuff. So you got immersed, and then the WWF magazine. So my first wrestlers that I really liked were, you know, the original ones that they were pushing on us.
Yes.
You're going to like this guy. I mean, they came out with figures of guys that you're like, why does Outback Jack have a figure? Why does S.D. Jones have a figure? But he's got 2 different colored shirts. So it just was that thing. But then when I started watching the cable stuff, I started finding guys that really were just beating the living daylights out of each other. Because, you know, Hulk Hogan, great guy, but it almost came to a point where you could shoot him in the head, he'd still get up. I mean, but that move,
Like the Terminator.
yeah, Terminator. He was a Terminator. So, you know, those are the guys I grew up watching, and I liked, and, you know, never thought in a million years I'd meet any of them.
That's awesome. When it was time to get into the business,
Yeah.
who did you turn to? Where did you look? Where did you go?
Well, the thing is that when you get in the business, it's you become a fan, and I was starting to do interviews with wrestlers. I was doing Elmhurst College Radio. I graduated there in 96, 94, 95. I was doing radio, and I started doing radio interviews. And then we came up with this idea called Hero TV with Mike McCann. We're going to interview people in careers that kids want to get involved in. And in 96, Hawk was at the Special Olympics, a Special Olympics event. And so I brought my camera. There's a little VHS handheld camera, and there's Hawk. And I was like, oh, it's Hawk. Because the year before, Animal was at the same event, but it was held at the Rosemont Horizon on the floor. So I go up to Hawk and I have my little name badge on, Paul Myers here, had still my hair, it said Hero TV, and I go up to Hawk and I'm thinking I'm gonna do my best to impress him, because growing up I had the Road Warriors figures, I had the T-shirts, I saw him in Chicago win the 6-man belts in a steel cage at the UIC Pavilion against the Horsemen. Nice. And Hawk I was always drawn to Hawk because he had a personality. Animal was the rough and tough guy, but Hawk was my guy. I dressed up him as Halloween. There are pictures that prove it too. But it was that moment where I go up to him and I go, "Hi Hawk, my name is Paul Myers. I'd like to interview for my TV show." "Not a problem." So I go up to him and say, "Paul Myers here." He goes, "Hero TV? I'm impressed. I'm honored to be on this show." And I go, "Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know this guy, he's won 6 different championships, the Crockett Cup. This guy's a legend." He looks in the camera and goes, "How can I not like this guy? He knows everything." That moment, I was like, oh, Hawk said my name. So after the interview, I got my pitch. I got the little picture I had signed from the year before of them with the Crockett Cup, which I got Animal to sign. I got Hawk to sign it. I got a picture with them. It was like the best day in 1996. I leave, and I'm walking back. There's Hawk. He's signing autographs, and Hawk says, "Paul, come here." I go back over there. He goes, I want to introduce you to my friend. We're doing this comic book." And remember, at the time, 96, Hawk wasn't with WWF. He was with the AWF that was starting up in Chicago. And he goes, "Hi, I want to introduce you to this guy. He's writing a book and blah, blah, blah. Great guy." So all of a sudden, I hook up with his friend. We do an interview for my TV show. He said, "We'd like to introduce Ted DiBiase." I'm like, "Oh, Ted? All right." I remember Ted DiBiase, and it went from that transition. So I was doing interviews, and what happened was, fast forward, I just thought I was going to do interviews. I even interviewed The Rock. In '98. I was doing all these interviews. But then when ECW came along, it was become, hey, I like this company. There's something different about ECW. At the time, WCW was kind of having their Monday Night Wars, and ECW. So I said, maybe I could go backstage and be an interviewer. They come into town. I meet Bill Alfonso. Bill Alfonso's, "Yeah, we're going to be on TNT, which became Spike Television.
TNN.
TNN, sorry.
That's right.
And then Spike Television. I thought, okay, I got a shot there. And so all of a sudden, I started trying to follow them. And then when they were in Peoria, I met John Spahn, who was a timekeeper for the state of Illinois and would do stuff at WWF events at the Allstate Arena. He says, "Paul, come here." I said, "Okay. I want you to meet these guys." Acid from the LWF, Jay Jensen, Double M, I think Maverick was there from the SUVs. And they go, "These guys run a wrestling company." Okay. In Chicago, I only heard of Windy City. I think I went to a Windy City or PWI match. I can't remember it at all. But I went to the LWF. I was enamored with it. It was like ECW. They had the characters. They had a packed crowd. I'm like, wow. Next day, next month, I meet Billy Wack. And we went to dinner and we talked. And he knew my goal was to get to ECW. That was my goal. Because I want to become a manager, and I said, I've got this idea. So all of a sudden, I get hooked up with the LWF. I became Mike Brooks, Phil Brooks' brother, aka CM Punk's brother. Yes. And I became his lawyer, agent, manager extraordinaire. Well, if you can spell those, it's LAME. But that's what I did. I had my PL Myers shirt, and I became his lawyer. I managed Team Fire Pro, Havoc, and Mimic, and they won the tag team belts, and Tyler Cross, and had to run the LWF for a while, probably about a year, and then it transitioned into PWI/PCW, and I got my first match, Floyd Turbo, aka Bailey Mannix. I became he was trying to work for PWI, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to do this gimmick, and I want you to manage me." I said, "All right, we're going to come out." I managed him, and it went great. He never went back to PWI to wrestle. He stayed underneath as Floyd Turbo, and he was Marcus Dornbos III at PWI, and I worked with PCW, and it just started that ball rolling into that company.
And we were talking a little bit off camera beforehand about ECW, how you were trying to make that push to try to get there. Did you talked a little bit to Bill Alfonso? Did you ever get up to the Paul Heyman level there?
Oh, I got up to the Paul Heyman level. True story. And these aren't I can't make up. I went to Buffalo, New York for their pay-per-view, and I was a manager for Coach Joe Newton for York High School.
Oh, okay.
For the 14th and 15th state championship, and
the cross-country
coach,
yes.
Great guy, master motivation, one of my heroes, and we basically he had a cross-country event that Saturday morning. I think they were going after their 25th state championship, I believe. Sunday morning, got up, got on the flight, went to Buffalo, New York, had a suit because I was going to fly home the same night or first thing the next morning. One suit, no real clothes or anything. Get my car rental, drive down to the building, trying to find them. Couldn't find the building. Found the building, found the truck that was all the merchandise was in. They said, "Oh yeah, they're at the hotel here." Went to the hotel. Found Bill Alfonso, found Jerry Lynn, and Spike Dudley, and I get in the elevator. There's Paul Heyman, and I was like, "Hi, Mr. Heyman. My name's Paul Myers. I've been sending you tapes. Just want to introduce myself. He goes, I know who you are. Just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll talk." I was like, got out of the elevator, went back, talked to the guys, and Spike Dudley gave me the best advice. Pick one thing and be the best at it. And that night, went to the pay-per-view. Went up that night with Bill Alfonso and hung out with New Jack. Never call him Jerome Young. New Jack, and we came up with P.L. Myers, and the rest is history. But yeah, I went to a lot of their events, flew to a lot of their pay-per-views. The most famous pay-per-view anyone would know is the one in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, where XPW decided to get in the faces of...
I've heard some stories about this.
True story. I was there, and I was driving the guys back and forth, and Sandman gave me his full access pass. I get in the building, and I've been doing this all day, driving them back and forth, because the hotel, you had to get on the expressway to the building, which was in the wrong part of the neighborhood in Los Angeles. So I get there, and one of the money backers looks at me and goes, "Where'd you get that pass?" I'm like, "Sandman, give me that pass. Get him a ticket up there." I'm like, "Okay." Well, when you dress the part and look the part, you can go anywhere in any building. So I went back down to the first level to watch the show. So there's the ring, and XPW decides to show up. Atlas Security basically tells them, "Turn your shirts around. We can't be on pay-per-view." Well, they turn their shirts around. Here comes the main event. Tommy Dreamer, Just Incredible, Stairway to Hell match. Francine's ringside, who was, I believe, dating Tommy Dreamer at the time. They decide to touch her, or she touched them, whatever. All of a sudden, supposedly, again, I wasn't backstage, but Paul Heyman threw down his headset, says, "I'm going to kill these guys." The locker room clears out. As you can see on the tape, the guys and security starts throwing out the guys out the door, this ramp, or this stairwell going up. I went up this one, so I'm following them. While they're starting a fight. They're throwing each other. They threw each other out of the building. They're fighting outside. Real fight. No cameras. Real fight. Here comes Los Angeles Police Department.
LAPD.
Guns drawn. Everybody back in the building, or somebody's going to jail. All of a sudden, I feel this big hand grab me. It's Big Sally Graciano. Pulls the door. So the fight was real because there was an interview we did with Steve Kane, who did a show in Aurora. And he goes, "Yeah, I heard that was all a work." I said, "Steve, there were no cameras there. What was the point? Why would they do that for... It was a real fight. New Jack was beating people up. Jack Victor was beating up homeless Jimmy against the fence. It was a real fight." We got back to the hotel after the event because it was ended early, and some little kids wearing an XPW shirt. I'm like, you need to turn that around before they come inside. They're not going to be happy about that. So yeah, ECW was fun. I helped out with concessions and merchandise when they were in Chicago. Last time they were in Chicago, New Jack actually borrowed some of the stuff from my parents' house for his street fight. He took my Bears helmet, used that, almost lost my Bears helmet, which is a Neil Anderson's helmet. Took some cue sticks that we had downstairs in the basement, used that. So he used a few things from my parents' house that were destroyed during his match with Rhino. But I never saw the match because I was helping concessions. So ECW was a fun run. I always tell people I never worked for ECW. I never got paid by ECW. I was like Almost Famous, the guy William, who was following the band.
Okay.
You know, following the band around and
sort of the groupie or an internship in a way.
Yeah, I wasn't a group. I was just trying to get hooked up with the band, and I tried to hook up with ECW, and unfortunately 8 years later they were $8.8 million in the hole, I think, and never had a shot with them.
That's when their assets got bought out. They went to bankruptcy.
Yeah, but it was a tight knit group, and they're all fighting for the same reason, and that was like the rah-rah of it.
And we still feel a lot of that influence even today in professional wrestling from that ECW group. It's amazing.
It's the only company that they wanted to come back, and when they brought it back, they just killed it even worse.
Yeah.
Which it was a magic feeling. It's kind of like the Ring of Honor crowd sometimes. That tightness of the fans on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Very special times. And then after that is basically just sticking around the Chicago area independents, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I stayed in Chicago, and I just we had a chance to work with the alleged Superfed that started up that never took off. They were trying to start something up with all the companies in Chicago and taking the best of the best. But I worked with PCW. We started that in 2001. I think our first show was at the Melrose Park Civic Center.
Okay.
We had actually pyro in there, fireworks.
Wow.
We had Billy Corgan sitting front row because he was an ECW fan. Sandman was there. Bill Alfonso was there. I was managing the Midwest champion Flyboy TK for his title shot. Coach Joe Newton was there to see me win that title. I showed the coach, I said, "This one's for you." We had over 900 people paid at that show, and that was right when the commission ended. So it was hard to keep track of how many people were there, but we pre-sold like 300-400 tickets, so it was a good time.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So that's how PCW began, and then they kind of grew from there, and they had like, how many super nights did they have? Like 13, 15?
13 Dream Nights.
13 Dream Nights,
We
yes.
came up with the name Dream Night because it was everyone's dream to walk out that tunnel and be somebody for that 15 minutes of fame when you're out there. I mean, and you had kids there. You had people of all different ages. And the great thing about the PCW is that it was like the Bad News Bears of wrestling. All different shapes, all different sizes, and $10 everyone could enjoy it. And I was fortunate, given an opportunity by Sonny Rogers, Jimmy Blaze, John Burke, Wally Wild, Rick Knight, Rick Rocket, and a whole bunch of guys that were making that thing work. And I was just opportunity given a chance to work with them, and I really appreciate those memories of it.
And now, turning to your book, it's called Gate to Gate, P.L. Myers, story of Shot to the Top. And the forward is by Bobby the Brain Heenan. It's, and then there's on the back, there's some great pictures. Maybe I don't want to spoil it too much. But there's pictures of you with Jimmy Hart and Jim Cornette and Paul Ellering, Mr. Fuji, Slick, of course, Bobby the Brain, and the aforementioned Bill Alfonso.
Yeah.
And this tells some great stories of your career. Go a little bit, without spoiling too much of what's entailed in this book.
Well, it's basically my journey into wrestling. The thing was, what happened was, my hero growing up was Road Warrior Hawk. Most people never get to meet their heroes. I mean, who's your hero and who's your favorite sports person?
Well, growing up, it was probably Carlton Fisk.
Okay, Carlton Fisk. So take Carlton Fisk. Have you met Carlton Fisk?
Yeah, at that same Special Olympics show, actually.
Probably a great guy. You had a great opportunity. Well, most of us never get to meet our heroes. Most of us never get to become friends with our heroes. And when I became friends with Hawk, and in the business they all say we're friends or family, but it's not, sometimes it doesn't happen that way. So When I became friends with Road Warrior Hawk, we brought him into Chicago, October 20th, 2001. I managed the Road Warriors in Chicago, brought him to Chicago. I got beat up by the Road Warriors because they pinned the wrong person. I hired them as my hired guns. And then we brought him into Dream Night 1 at Elmhurst College, which Seth Rollins' very first independent show was that show. He was in the audience. And I wrestled, myself and John Burke wrestled Q101 guys Turd and Jim Jesus.
Oh, okay.
AKA Jim Lyman. Jim Lyman got the Hurricane on me for the win. Cheated, but that's all right. Dream Night, then they came out on their motorcycles versus Tony Scarpone and Flyboy TK. Mr. Perfect showed up because he just got let go from the WWF. He showed up. Then they came back for Dream Night 2, 20-year anniversary, with Paul Ellering, won their 7th championship. Hawk passed away October 19th, 2003. My hero died. I managed my hero. I paid tribute to my hero with the anniversary show. I went and spoke at his funeral. I spoke right after Ted DiBiase. I spoke about Hawk, my friend, who was my hero. People in the audience was Bobby Heenan, Vince McMahon, who's was in that crowd. Some of them I didn't know. Hawk passed away, so I decided I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write how I got involved. That's how the book started, gate to gate.
Okay.
Hawk would always say, by the time you got off the plane till the time you got back on the plane, this is when you could walk down to the gates. He was taken care of. I always made sure the talent was taken care of. I got him in the car, got him a good hotel, made sure they were taken care of. So that was our little saying, gate to gate. That's how the story, that's how the title came up. That was my slogan with him. When Hawk died, he died of an enlarged heart due to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, everyone has their demons, whether it's
Yes.
food, drugs, you name it, whatever it is. Everyone has their demons. Hawk was a good guy. He gave you the shirt off his back. Never let me down as a hero. Did he do stuff in private that we all didn't agree with? Yeah, everyone does. Every wrestler has done something that, you know.
Every human being.
Has done something.
Yes.
But when they start, to me, it was trashing him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, he was a good guy. Okay, granted, he has demons. Yeah, he cost you money. Yeah, he did this. But was he a good guy? Yeah.
At the end of the day.
End of the day, he was a good guy. So I decided to write a book, how I got started, and I did tributes to Hawk in that book. Now, the proceeds from this book went to the Illinois Special Olympics, where I met Hawk, and the Elmhurst Day Camp program, where I was a day camp counselor in Elmhurst.
That is awesome.
We raised over $1,000. We gave to the two charities, the book. So after I started writing the book, I met Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan said, hey, I was at the funeral. I thought it was great what you said. Brought him to Chicago, worked against Bobby Heenan. He took a bump for me. I hit him in the throat with his own book. I ripped it up. I said, who the hell do you think you are on P.L. Myers' Shot to Top? I had Bobby the Brain Heenan, the greatest manager of all time, going through throat cancer, got hit by me, a little kid. I had people in the audience. My dad was in the audience. My mom was on the Senior Citizen Commission thinking I'm beating up a senior citizen. It wasn't a good thing. But that was the greatest manager of all time, putting me over. For what reason? He saw something in me. He saw the passion I had for the business, the respect. Respect, individual pride, and tradition. That's what my character, that's who I've been based off of. He put me over. I said, then he came through Chicago with Jim Cornette for Ring of Honor, managing against each other. I said, Bobby said, Paul, can you help me out? Me and my brother helped him out. He says, who's writing the forward to your book? Because I told him, I said, Bobby, thank you. Life's too short. I'm writing this book about Hawk. I just want to thank you for what you did. He said, who's writing the forward? I said, I don't know, maybe my dad. I couldn't tell you. I'll write the forward. He offers to write the forward. It's like Michael Jordan writing a forward to some kid in high school right now, saying he's that good.
That's amazing.
I didn't pay him. He offered. He gave me, wrote the forward. I got some of the biggest name wrestlers to write tributes to Hawk in there. I think I had Ric Flair, Bret Hart, a whole bunch of people that wrote tributes to Paul Ellering. People wrote tributes, and it's how I got involved. My journey with ECW, journey how I got in wrestling, some of the dream nights we had, and why I do what I do. So that's the synopsis of the book. It's 200 pages. It's an easy read, and from all people that have read it so far, they've enjoyed the book because it's a kid chasing his dream. He chased it, won it, and couldn't write a better story.
So when you were a kid, you talk about all these larger life characters. Obviously, the managers stuck out to you too. At that point, the Bobby Heenans, the Jimmy Harts, the Mr. Fujis, the Gary Harts, the J.J. Dillons, guys like that.
Oh yeah, they were great managers, but I was a little kid who basically thought he was going to manage the Road Warriors. I went down to the Elmhurst, they had a carnival, and they did the caricatures. And it was me holding up a sign, hey, I'm managing the Road Warriors. Never thought in a million years I'd be a real manager or an independent wrestling manager. Because remember, I still consider after myself 19 years a rookie. Because think of it this way, Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, they were on the road almost every day. If I managed twice a month for 20 years, okay, how many? That's under 100 shows. Okay, I'm still a rookie, so that's why I did what I did. And those managers, they all did something different. And I always watched all the different managers, thinking, how am I going to do it differently? I made sure I dressed the part, I looked the part, I didn't bring disrespect to my family, I never swore at anyone. I made some comments, but never really made it personal.
Yeah, and once again, Gate to Gate by P.L. Myers, A Shot to the Top, forward by Bobby the Brain Heenan. Here's the cover of the book right here. It's still available at Amazon.com, even though it's been out for about a decade now. As P.L. Myers says, great read. Check it out. It's pretty awesome. And also make sure you get out to POWW Entertainment's WrestleRage 17, Addison Park District, November the 9th. That night's going to be huge. There's also going to be a 4-way ladder match for their POWW Entertainment Championship. Vic Capri, great veteran wrestler in the Chicago area. He's defending the title in that match. Anything else you have to say about that show?
I just have to say is that there's not that many shows going on in Chicago. And when you think about, here's your chance to get out there and meet these wrestlers, see the future wrestling superstars. Vic Capri, Yabo the Clown's going to be out there. You got Rough Crossing. You got the tag team champions. And I mean, Scott Spade. You have so many great, Jimmy Blaze, Eric Freedom, Trainwrecker, the part of Revolution. There's all these different factions. You got the young, up and young comer wrestlers that are going out there. And I mean, it's just one of those events you can go there for 3 hours and enjoy yourself. And for $15, nowadays it's probably cheaper than a movie. This is where you can interact. You can get autographs. You can get pictures with these guys. I mean, this is one step away from the WWF, or WWE is now they call it, or TNA, or NWA. It gives you a chance to meet these guys. And the great thing about the POWW roster, let me get out of being P.L. Myers for a second. As Paul Myers, I've been around this business for a long time. You've been around the business a long time. I've had a chance to meet guys like you, Mike Gilmartin. List goes on of great people I've met. This is your chance as a wrestling fan to go out to a good bunch of guys. Not a lot of jerks there. It's going there for fun entertainment. You can enjoy it 3 hours, and you get a cheer, you get a boo. It's a place to be.
And on a personal side, following independent wrestling in the area the last few years, these guys have real jobs. I mean, they travel on their weekends. They work shows, and a lot of them are very amenable to fans. They come out, they take your picture with you, they shake your hand, they say hello. They're hardworking guys. They all have their dreams. Some of them may be past their dreams, but still love the sport itself. But it's absolutely amazing. Go see a show like POWW Entertainment. I mean, there's a ton of other great shows in the area too. These guys are awesome. I have come to a new appreciation for Chicago independent wrestling since I started Windy City Slam a little over a year ago. Awesome guys, awesome people. P.L. Myers, thank you very much for stopping by. Great stories, and I know we could probably talk all night, but thank you so much for your time, sir.
And thank you for everything you do to promote Chicagoland wrestling. If it wasn't for this guy promoting it, they wouldn't get the spotlight that they deserve and the hours that you put into it. I know everybody out there appreciates what you do.
Thank you.
And your dedication to the sport of wrestling.
And I'm just hitting the tip of the iceberg, too. I'm hoping to do a little bit more in the coming months as well. So Thank you for the kind words, Mr. Myers.
Thank you.